And we are live. Thank you guys for coming once again. So, I wasn't really sure what I was going to talk about on this podcast at first because I intended to talk about numerology with Jehovah's Witnesses. I found this website. Somebody gave me this website on the Jehovah's Witnesses website where it's talking about numerology and how they feel about it. And that's super interesting to me. I figured we'd go through that. But right before the podcast started, I got a flood of really interesting questions. So I figured I'd start addressing those before I hit the numerology stuff. Some people were asking me how I feel about Sargon being kicked off of Patreon. That's a really, really complicated question. Before I get into that, I just want to make note of a couple of things that I disagree with Sargon on. So Sargon is kind of in my community a little bit. He started out as a social justice fighter, I guess. I don't know. He fought social justice warrior, if you will. Anyway, he started out that way. He was not in the atheist community, though. But he was friends with all of the atheists in the atheist community. So we're kind of in tangential markets, if you will. And I feel like it's kind of a responsibility of mine to talk about things that I disagree with, things that people do that I don't think are right. Especially in my community, I have to hold people accountable, and I expect people to hold me accountable in the same way. So one of the things that I'm not really a fan of that Sargon says is, he says we should mock people for holding stupid beliefs, right? I don't agree. I don't feel like mocking them is a productive way to get them to stop believing that way. I feel like it locks them into their position. It's called the backfire effect. And it's a logical fallacy. It's where people feel embarrassed or angered in some way by something that you say, and it just firmly entrenches them in their position. So it's harder to get them out. From a psychological standpoint, what you should be doing is talking to them calmly and nicely and reasoning your way through it with them. Not attacking, not making them feel attacked, not making them feel stupid. That's not helpful. It does not bring people out of belief of any kind, whether it's belief in God or communism or whatever. It's whatever kind of belief it is. So I don't believe that it's productive for Sargon to go around telling people that we should be mocking stupid beliefs. That's not helpful. That's damaging. Now, as far as Sargon being kicked off of Patreon goes, I don't really know the entire situation. I just know that he was kicked off of Patreon because of something he said somewhere else. Because he said something that Patreon viewed as toxic on some other platform. It wasn't really related to Patreon, I believe. I think that that's what happened. So here's the question. Should he have been kicked off of Patreon for something he did somewhere else? Patreon is a private company, right? I have a private company. I don't have to invite the Westboro Baptist Church onto my platform, onto my YouTube channel, to talk about their beliefs and how gays are evil and all this stuff for an hour straight, unrebutted. I don't have to do that. I'm not legally bound to do that because it's my YouTube channel, it's my platform, right? I call the shots with it. I make the decisions with it, nobody else. And it's the same with Patreon. It's their thing. If they want to spread certain ideas on their platform, then they have the right to do that. And if you are forcing them not to, that's violating their rights now. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think that they should be targeting people. They shouldn't be targeting people for political reasons or anything like that. So some companies are so big at this point that they are the de facto town square, right? The Constitution has protected us from being jailed or whatever if we stand on a street corner and say basically anything, aside from, things that would cause immediate bodily harm or something. That's what the Constitution has protected us from. So we've been able to stand on a street corner and say whatever we want pretty much up to now. But big companies like YouTube and Twitter and Facebook, those are de facto the street corner now. Those are basically the street corner. That's where everybody congregates. That's where everybody talks. Or that's where everybody talks, right? So I think that this idea of mine is not fully formed out, and it's not, I don't know, it's not well thought out completely. So I hesitate to even talk about it right now, but I feel like public entities like that, like entities that are that big, like YouTube and Twitter and Facebook, where everybody congregates, should maybe be regulated under constitutional rights. So, they can't just kick off all Republicans. They can't just kick everybody out that they don't like or silence any opinion that they don't like. I think that's wrong. They shouldn't do that. Like I said, they have the right to do it. So it's not about is it lawful or not. It's about conceptually should they be doing it or not. I would like to see the laws changed so that, everybody on those platforms has constitutional protections. But until that time, should they be forced to platform conspiracy theorists? Should they be forced to platform people like Alex Jones, for example? Honestly, I know a lot of you guys aren't going to like hearing this, but I view Sargon as on the same wavelength as Alex Jones. He holds a lot of the crazy conspiracy theorist ideas. He has the same mindset, the same conspiracy theory mindset. He's an extremist in many ways. Not in all ways, but in many. So, I don't know. It's kind of a complicated thing. Do I support Patreon's right to kick anybody off they want? Yes. Should they target people for political reasons? No. That's wrong. They shouldn't target people for political reasons. They shouldn't target them for anything like that. If they don't like the toxic behavior, I mean, like I said, I don't even know what he was kicked off for. But if it's a toxic thing that he was doing that got him kicked off, if that's the case, I defend that. I don't believe in toxicity. It's not helpful. You need to, it's just like I was saying a minute ago, you should not be mocking people. That's locking them into the position that's making things worse. You should be talking things out logically, calmly, rationally. Reasoning things through with people. Street epistemology, cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectic behavioral therapy. These things are what we should be striving to do when we're conversing with people, trying to help them out of a ridiculous belief. So, anyway, that's how I feel about it. So, something I've noticed about a lot of people who are leaving cults, specifically Jehovah's Witnesses. So, as a lot of you guys know, I've been listening to a lot of ex-Jehovah's Witness stories on YouTube. Every time some pops up in my feed, I'll give it a listen. I'll listen to somebody's story. And I've found that a lot of people coming out of Jehovah's Witnesses, interestingly enough, are on their way into a new religion. And, I'm not against people being in a Christian. I have no issue with that, obviously. But the religions that they tend to list, I've found, are cults. Like this one story I was listening to on YouTube. This woman was talking about leaving Jehovah's Witnesses and how she wasn't, she was a fan of John Cedars, even though he's an atheist. And she was a fan of, and then she listed a couple of other ex-Jehovah's Witnesses YouTubers that are now Christians. But then she started talking about Pentecostalism and how she was slain in the spirit, and they placed their hands on her, and she was yelling, and she just felt this flood of emotion coming through, and it was so hard to come to terms with, Jesus being God and the Holy Spirit at the same time, because her whole life she learned that wasn't true through Jehovah's Witnesses. And then one day somebody explained it and it just clicked. It just made sense all of a sudden. And it's scary to me because she left this cult and now she's being indoctrinated in a new one. And she doesn't see that. That's scary. That's genuinely scary to me. I don't really know how to fix that problem yet. I'm still thinking on it. Maybe I'll make a video about it at some point on my main channel about, the dangers of coming out of a cult and the things you need to look out for to prevent yourself from joining another. But that's really scary stuff, and it's happened one too many times, in my opinion. So, anyway. Yeah, that was the lead into the numerology thing. I figured we'd give this a quick read, just for a couple of minutes, to see what the Jehovah's Witnesses have to say about numerology. So the title is, What Do Numbers Mean in the Bible? Is numerology biblical? Now, Jehovah's Witnesses have historically been really big fans of numerology. They have all kinds of ideas about it. I don't know what their views are on paper, if they're going to come out and just admit to it, like, oh yeah, we love numerology, or if they're going to downplay it. I mean, there are a couple of important things, but don't read too much into it. We'll see what they have to say. Okay, so the question is numerology biblical? Now here's the first subheading. It says, the Bible's answer. Numbers in the Bible can often be taken literally, but they're sometimes used as symbols. The context usually indicates whether a particular number is used as a symbol. Consider these examples of the symbolic meaning of numbers in the Bible. Okay, so they have a few examples here. Let's see, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 examples of numbers that are significant in the Bible. So the first one is the number 1, unity. For instance, Jesus prayed to God that his followers may all be one, just as you, Father, are in union with me, and I am in union with you. So apparently the number 1 is significant for that reason. I don't really see the significance just based off of that verse, but whatever. Here's number 2. So this is the second number, and the number is actually 2. They're saying that the number 2 is significant. In a legal setting, 2 witnesses verify the truth of a matter. There's the 2-witness rule rearing its ugly head right there. That's interesting. Deuteronomy 17:6, they say. Similarly, the repetition of a vision or a statement confirms the matter as sure and true. For example, when Joseph interpreted a dream given to Pharaoh of Egypt, he said, the fact that the dream was repeated to Pharaoh twice means that the thing is firmly established on the part of the true God. In prophecy, 2 horns, quote-unquote, can represent dual rulership, as the prophet Daniel was told regarding the Medo-Persian Empire. Okay, so they found these verses that say the number 2, or that use the number 2, and they're applying this relevance to them. They're connecting them in a way that I don't believe they should be connected. I mean, it's hard to tell. I can't count anything out. I guess it's possible that the Bible authors or God or whatever exists and put that in the Bible intentionally. But I'm kind of defaulting to the idea that the Bible was written by just a bunch of guys from different time periods, unconnected to each other, some of whom had read previous people's work. And if that's the case, I really don't see any significance to the number 2 being used in all of these verses at the same time. We've got a use in Deuteronomy, a use in Genesis, in Daniel, and Revelation. Those 4 books were written at completely different time periods. It's just outrageous to me to think that they're connected in any way. Okay, so the number 3 is significant to them. It says, just as 3 witnesses would firmly prove a matter to be true, a threefold repetition seems to establish it firmly or emphasize it. Ezekiel, Acts, and Revelation quotes, apparently. These aren't proving anything for me. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something important, but they're not selling this idea to me very well. Okay, the number 4 is important for this reason. This can represent completeness in form or function, as in the expression, the 4 corners of the earth. Okay. And that's, I guess, in Revelation 7:1, Isaiah 11:12. Very strange. And then we've got the number 6. Of course, I'm sure we all know why 6 is significant. Being 1 less than 7, which often represents completeness, 6 can stand for something incomplete or imperfect, or something associated with God's enemies. So I guess they're just telling us what they believe these numbers mean? This is so strange. I know Jehovah's Witnesses have always viewed 7 as an important number. This number is often used to represent the idea of completeness. For instance, the Israelites were commanded by God to march around Jericho on 7 successive days and to march around 7 times on the 7th day. The Bible contains many similar examples of such a use of the number 7. When Jesus told Peter that he should forgive his brother not up to 7 times, but up to 77 times, the repetition of 7 conveyed the thought of without limit. Okay, but he said 77, not 7. That's a little bit different. They're not the same number. Okay, so here's the next number that's important on their list. It says number 10. This number can stand for the entirety or aggregate of something. Okay. And now 12. This number seems to represent a complete divine arrangement. For example, the vision of heaven given to the Apostle John included a city with 12 foundation stones, and on them the 12 names of the 12 apostles. Multiples of 12 can have similar meanings. Where are they getting this? 40. Several judgment or punishment periods were linked with the number 40. Genesis 7:4, Ezekiel 29:11 and 12. This really is not, I'm not connecting the dots here. They've connected the dots for me, apparently. Now, this is the very end. Numerology and gematria. These symbolic meanings of numbers in the Bible are different from numerology, which involves looking for an occult meaning in numbers, their combinations, and numerical totals. For example, Jewish Kabbalists have analyzed the Hebrew scriptures using a technique called gematria, never heard of that before, which looks for a hidden code in the numerical equivalents of letters. Numerology is a form of divination which God condemns. Okay, interesting. So they're saying that numerology is condemned, but they just gave us these numbers and their meanings. This is very, very strange to me. Very bizarre. I'm going to have to do a full video on this at some point and do some extensive research on it.
The first one was from your Ask channel.
Yeah.
And it was, I'm paraphrasing, why did you decide to start your YouTube channel? Why did you decide to speak out against Jehovah's Witnesses, though?
Okay. I started the YouTube channel because I felt like there was a vacuum in the atheist community, where a lot of YouTube atheists had moved to different subjects because they kind of got burned out on it or whatever, which is understandable. That happens. But there was a vacuum. I needed that stuff. I needed to hear about it. I needed to talk about it. I needed a community. And they had all moved to something else. So that's why I started my channel in the first place. I did start as a YouTube atheist. And eventually I ended up moving to Jehovah's Witnesses because that's how I grew up. And I was like, nobody's going to be interested in this. I'm just putting it out anyways because I want to. And it was my most popular video, surprisingly. So I continued talking about Jehovah's Witnesses. I couldn't have gotten luckier with that. Surprisingly, there's a big market for Jehovah's Witness material because there are a lot of us out there who've been really hurt and who are in the middle of being hurt by this group. So if you want to talk about them, I would encourage that. There was another question in this.
There was actually one that kind of led from that question. If you want to go ahead and do it, if you could restart your YouTube channel with all the knowledge you have now, would you? And if so, what would you change?
Got it. Yes, I definitely would. I do not regret YouTube at all. This has just been the best decision that I've ever made in my life, I think, or one of them. It's been very hard, I have to say, though. It's been really difficult. I worked full-time and ran 3 YouTube channels also for years. Well, I ran 1 YouTube channel for years while working full-time and 3 YouTube channels for 8 months. It was not easy. I did it, though, and it was worth it. It's just hard. The problem is that there's a lot of toxicity in certain areas of the internet, and I think that if I started over, I would avoid those areas of toxicity. There are some things that I've done, some platforms on which I've engaged, and some groups that I've gotten involved in that I don't believe were worth my time in the end. They just did more harm than good, a lot more harm. So I would not get involved in those areas in the future. If I started over from scratch, I wouldn't get involved in them. So, but here we are, no big deal. I'm pretty happy with where things are at this immediate moment. So, was there another question? I feel like I was missing one.
Yeah. There's one from Legalize. He wants to know, how much do you think genetics affects who people are, like nature versus nurture, and what percentage would you put to each?
Right. This is an interesting question. I read this book by David Eagleman called Incognito: The Secret Lives of the Brain. Really, really good book. You guys should give it a read if you haven't. David Eagleman's an interesting guy, too. He's not, as far as I know, he's not an atheist. It's not about atheism. It's just about the brain and how it works. So, Christians, feel free to read that, too. He was talking about how nature versus nurture it's kind of a mix of both. Everything comes down to a mix of both. Even being gay, from what I understand, you are not born that way. It's determined by your 2nd or 3rd birthday, roughly. And it's pretty much set in stone from that point on. It's a mix of both nature, being born with a predisposition toward it, and nurture, how you're raised for a certain period of time in your life. That's my understanding of it. You guys should definitely go research that yourselves, as you should anything that I talk about on here. But that's what I've picked up from the limited reading that I've done. One thing I can say for sure, though, is there is absolutely zero reason to try to convert anybody into anything. It's absolutely wrong to have the conversion camps that Christians have. And I will fight that to the death. That is absolutely wrong. So anyway, yeah. Well, were there more questions?
Yes. Oh, this isn't a question, it's more of a side note, but Legalize wanted you to know that a friend of theirs made up a subreddit for you.
Oh, okay.
This one is from Glenn. Do you think the concept of sin exists outside of religion, i.e., wrong regardless of local laws or context? Objective morality, I guess.
Right, okay. Morality is an interesting subject in itself. I have an interesting view on morality. So here's the thing. Is morality objective or is it subjective? I think that it's objective if you base it on some specific thing, right? So morality in itself is subjective, full stop. If you're basing your morality on the Bible, then it's objective. If you believe it to be moral to follow the Bible and do the things that the Bible says, then your morality is based on the Bible and it's objective in that way. If you believe that morality's goal, per se, should be to better humankind, if you believe that morality's goal should be to increase human well-being, there are objective answers to that. We can find objective answers to how to improve mankind, how to improve the well-being of humans. It's like, I don't know if you guys have read the book by Sam Harris called, what was it? The Moral Landscape, something or other, I think. It's called The Moral Landscape. I don't know if you've read it, but he talks about this a little bit in that book. So there is an objective answer to how many birds are in flight over the earth right now. We don't know what that answer is, but there is an objective answer. With morality, we may not know the right decision to make to improve human well-being, but there is an objective answer to be had. So whether we know the answer or not, if you're basing your morality off of improving the well-being of humanity, there is an objective answer to it. Generally, though, if you're not taking any preconditions or anything, morality is subjective. That's just how it is. Anyway, I think I should probably get to guess. Is there another question I should cover first?
Well, you forgot to do the percentage for Legalize's question. What percent do you think is nature and what percent nurture?
I have no real way to answer that. Like I said with the bird situation, there is an objective answer with how many birds are flying over the earth right now. I don't know the answer, though, and that answer may be unknowable. It's the same with that. What percent is nature, what percent is nurture? It would depend on the issue. And
do you think that it's about equal, or?
I have no way of knowing. I don't know.
Okay.
There's no way to know. All right, I guess I'm going to get on to, there's probably a research paper out there talking about it. Let's check with Ghost of the Stars, who's first on the list. Are you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
How's it going?
It's good. It's good.
So I understand there's something you wanted to talk about, right?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about a teenager's perspective on religion and leaving it and all that.
Okay, well, let's talk about it. What do you have to say? What do you think about it?
Well, I just think that it's really different from an adult because I think one thing that a lot of adults who have left religion seem to focus on is like, well, what about now? What's next? What are we... Like, one thing that I've noticed is like people talking about what happens after we die, what's the real cause of the universe. Meanwhile, with me, with a lot of other teenagers around my age who have also left religion, we just don't care. We see the problems with the religion and we leave. It doesn't really matter to us.
Right. Because you've really seen the toxicity and things.
Yeah. Like, I left because I was originally Catholic. And I left because I saw the problems with Catholicism. But I didn't leave for science or anything. I just left because I saw the problems.
Right, because of the toxicity. And so you left Catholicism, you said?
Yes.
Okay. How long ago did you leave?
I technically left like 2 years ago, I believe, but I officially left 1 year ago because I had a breakdown in the middle of mass because I was still pretending like I was Catholic.
Okay, and I guess that didn't go too well, huh? Did your parents
Yeah, it
react
didn't.
poorly to it?
Luckily it was only my mom there who's a lot more chill. She
Okay.
reacted to it and she talked to me the next day being like, "Are you sure you want to keep going?" And I told her everything.
Wow, and she was okay with you not going?
Yeah. My mom's the chill one. It's my dad I was worried about, is what I'm saying.
Okay. So do you believe in God is the question. So you left because of the toxicity you saw, but do you
Yeah.
still believe?
I don't believe. I stopped believing. It started with all the moral stuff, and it eventually spiraled into me figuring out, like, what I actually believe. But the reason I left in the first place is, like, the moral reason.
Right. Okay. So what is it that you actually believe? Like, how do you feel about everything now?
I believe that there's something more to the world, but not necessarily a god or a higher power or anything. Like, it's not just what we figured out. There's something more, but it's just not what, like, religion so far seems to have figured out.
Okay, so you think it's possible that there's more to it than just a naturalistic explanation, but it's probably not God.
A god. Yeah.
Got you. Okay. Well, that's pretty interesting. So what else do you think about? Like, have you put any more thought into it about that, or is that about?
I've thought about, like, trying to research it. Like, for example, I want to do, like, maybe a seance to see if ghosts is the thing. I don't know. Just, like, wanting to research all this, like, other stuff that could possibly be real, but I have no way of knowing until I actually research.
Right.
And I want to research by looking into it myself.
A seance. That would be pretty interesting to be there for. Have you ever seen Darren Brown on YouTube before?
No, I haven't. I can look him up.
Yeah, he's really interesting. He's like a quote unquote magician. He's mainstream. He isn't a YouTuber. He's he's like a stage performer. And he's kind of left religion behind. He's gay, but he's a really interesting guy. You should definitely check him out. Yeah. He talks about a lot of that stuff. Oh, he debunked a seance. That's what it was. He was there doing a seance with a bunch of people and seeing how they reacted and stuff. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, I've heard from people, like, for example, mainly Wiccans. I've heard from, like, Wiccans and such that most people who, like, pay for seances are really just scammers.
Oh, yeah.
Which makes sense, because it's like, if people are paying for it, you're going to want to show them what they want to see.
Yep.
So,
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. I don't know how old you are. Probably not old enough to remember Miss Cleo, but...
Yeah, I'm 15.
Okay,
so,
yeah. Miss Cleo is from, like, the 90s. She was, like, a 1990s TV psychic. You call in and she would do a reading, and it was comically bad. I think she ended up getting sued, like, later on for lying and stuff.
It's not that hard to do, like, a fake seance.
Yeah.
Like, I know how to do a cold read and everything.
Right.
Because it's really easy.
Yeah, I understand there's, like, an art to it almost, you know? Like, you can get books and read about how to do this stuff. It's kind of interesting. I think it'd be cool to learn how to do it.
I kind of know how to do it. I know how to do a cold read. I already said that, but...
Right.
Yeah, a cold read is easy, but it's not that convincing if you know how to look through it.
Right.
People fall for it, but...
Oh, yeah, they do. There's always going to be somebody to fall for stuff. But it's still interesting, you know?
Yeah.
I was... when I was kind of first coming out of Jehovah's Witnesses, my brother and sister-in-law were kind of getting into tarot cards. And I was like, oh my god, that's so evil, you know? But... It was interesting because she had this book about what each card means and all that stuff. Turns out they're all vague enough to apply to anybody. So no matter what card you pull out of the deck, it's going to apply to that person. But it's still cool. You know, there's a cool history behind it, even.
Yeah, I actually have a pack of tarot cards with me.
Right? A crate, actually, the person that's helping me run the podcast, She gave me
Yeah.
a pack of tarot cards at one point. They're
It
pretty
is
cool.
fun to do readings, though. Like, even
It
if you
is.
don't believe it, it is fun to do readings.
Yeah, it is. It is fun. And it's, like I said, it's got a cool history behind it. I remember my aunt did a tarot card reading one time in the same house as me, and I was just freaking out because there were tarot cards there. Oh my god, Jehovah's Witness is so crazy. It's crazy to think where we came from. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad you made your way out because there is a lot of toxicity in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I made it out, like a few months, or like, not a few months, but like a few months ago. I was in a parade, and we passed by the church that I used to go to, and I'm glad that I got out of it before they did this, because they put out like a bunch of little crosses, like a graveyard, and said, "This is how many babies die each year from abortion."
Okay.
And I'm just like, I'm so glad that I got out before that happened, because I do
know.
not want to be associated with that.
Oh my god, that's awful. Some people are ridiculous. Yeah, that's pretty toxic behavior, it seems to me. There is a lot of that. But yeah, I'm glad you found your way out.
Also, the priest got in trouble because he told a crowd of children that Santa Claus isn't real.
Oh, that's not good. That really makes people mad when that happens. Oh my god. Oh, okay. All right, well, I appreciate you coming on and talking to me. It's been an interesting conversation, and I'll talk to you again one of these days, okay?
Yep, one day.
All right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that is pretty crazy. It's like when, what's her name, Megyn Kelly, that Fox broadcaster or whatever, or previously on Fox News Channel, said that Santa was white, and there was this big uproar over it. Do you guys remember that? Oh my god. She's like, and just kids, so you know, Santa just is white. So, because some kid wrote in about Santa being black and asked her if Santa was black. And it's like, oh my god, what is wrong with you? Just shut your mouth. Just stop talking. Don't say a word. Anyway, it's just ridiculous. Okay, so the next person on the list is Epso. Are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm here. Like, I'm sorry, it's like 4 a.m., but...
oh, no problem. I'm glad I got you on.
No. Like, all right.
That's awesome. Yes. So tell me, what religion were you originally? Are you still religious?
Was Orthodox and Christian.
You say you were Christian?
Yes.
Okay, so what kind of Christian were you? Is there a denomination, or was it just kind of Christian?
It's like Orthodox.
Orthodox, you say?
Yes.
Okay, so what kind of practices do you go through? What kind of... I mean, you're not Orthodox anymore, I assume.
Ukrainian Orthodoxy, it's like very interesting things. Like, we have one day when for tradition guys like split water on like girls to watch one under the skirts. Like Ukrainian like Orthodox, it's like very strange things, but I really don't know what to tell about it.
Right. Okay, so let me ask you this then. Are you still religious or no? No. Okay, I didn't think so.
Who was before me, like, he has an interesting point. I'm become not religious because like I become more and more in. I'm sorry for my like.
Oh no, that's fine.
Yes, I become like more and more in like understanding of science, and I don't understand why is like involved like needs a girl like this greater entity like who for my opinion like world don't need a god.
Right. Okay. So you're saying you don't really buy into this whole greater entity.
Yes. Thing. Like in childhood, I was really religious, but science like tell me it's like nothing to believe in. Like
right.
I read for some time. I'm reading in the like internet, and I'm come across this like probably the craziest quote I have like ever seen. Like it's a denomination of Russian Orthodoxy, and it like it's like their name is like nuclear orthodoxy.
Nuclear Orthodoxy.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay. So that's
Yes.
the name of the group?
Yes, it's like Атомное православие. It's like, yes, translated like nuclear orthodoxy.
I'm taking a look at it right now, actually. Russian nuclear orthodoxy.
Like, yes, I can.
That's interesting. I've never heard of that before. You know, one thing that I think, one way in which I think religion went wrong was fighting science so hard. They should have just
Yes.
embraced science because it was inevitably going to. I mean, public consensus will eventually go with evidence. It's going to take time, but it will get there, you know?
Yes, so like they think God give them like nuclear technology to protect the holy Russia, like from the demons from the other countries. Like I'm just give like with Wikipedia.
Wait, what was the last bit you said there?
Like protect world of like the demons from the like demons. It's like for them like it's something like bad people from another country. Bad people, it's like not bad, we evil, and we just don't agree with Russia. Okay, it's like very crazy organization. What like they tell let's get more nuclear weapons and other stuff.
Right.
It's like when I first heard about them, like I'm waiting them sound like it's some group from Fallout or something else, but they.
Right. That's pretty interesting stuff. I find it really interesting to look at the differences between religions from the US and religions in different parts of the world. Like, even Islam and Christianity are predominantly from different parts of the world and have really interesting differences in them, you know?
Yes, like it's like from my point, like I'm come from Ukraine, like Eastern Europe, yes, and here is culture is really different, like from your culture, yes. Trends happens like in 2 years or 2 or 4 years after that, like yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, it's really interesting stuff. By the way, was there anything that you wanted to cover? Anything that you wanted to touch on before I move on?
Yes, I want to pay attention like a nuclear orthodoxy. It's like very interesting point.
Right.
Maybe you can get someone who can give you to research it, like who can translate it. Like
nuclear right.
Yes. Okay.
So like, I'm going to have to take a look at that. Is it a religion? Is that what it is?
No, like it's like subtype. It's like they still are the part of the religions. It's like a part of the view, more like it's like almost the denomination, but not total.
Right. Okay. Very interesting. I'm gonna have to take a look at that later on. That sounds really interesting.
But really, you all of information it's only like only on Russian, so like you need like have someone to translate it. But it's really interesting information.
I'm wondering if it's something that Google Translate could do. Is it?
It can, but it won't be like totally
it wouldn't be
correct.
Great.
Yes.
Right.
It will work.
Right. Well, I don't know. I imagine I could probably get somebody to help me out with it. That sounds pretty cool, though. I'll have to take a look at that.
Okay. So, like, thank you. Like.
yeah. Thank you for coming on and talking to me. It's been really interesting, and I'll definitely take a look at that. I'll talk to you next time. Okay.
Yes. Good luck.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting stuff. There was a little bit of a language barrier there, but I think I can probably go back and listen to the podcast again. Which, by the way, I actually do because I have to edit this down. Like, what I do is I will take the raw live stream in its entirety, and I will cut clips out of it and upload them because obviously, as most people know, YouTube favors smaller, short segments. they get a lot more views usually than longer form stuff. So what I'll do is I will cut clips out, I'll upload them to YouTube, and then I'll combine the clips into the full podcast edited so that it, I cut out long breaths and things like that. Really, really long breaths and pauses. And I'll put them up on iTunes and Spotify and all that other good stuff. So what I end up doing is I will actually go through and listen to the podcast all the way through again, just for the purpose of editing at least. And I even read the comments because the comments are on screen. So if there's something you want to say, then I'll probably see it if it's in the comments. I usually read the comments. But anyways, yeah, that's pretty interesting stuff about nuclear orthodoxy. To take a look at that. But yeah, there was actually one more person I wanted to get to. The person is Spaceboy Kellen, I think? Spaceboy Kellen? Hang on, let me see if I can unmute. Are you there? Can you hear me? Oh, wait a minute. I didn't unmute you. Oh, yeah, I did. I did unmute you. Are you there?
Yeah, hi.
How's it going? You're very choppy. I can't understand.
I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. It just sounds like a poor signal.
Yeah, my Wi-Fi's being off.
That's starting to sound better, though. So tell me, what religion were you originally? Are you still religious?
I was raised Roman Catholic.
You were raised Roman Catholic?
Yeah.
Interesting. What was it like to be raised that way?
Let's see. I'm famous Filipino, so everyone I know is like really religious to the point that I think there's parts of the Philippines that on like around Easter there are people that get like nailed to crosses and strange.
That is strange.
Yeah.
So how are your parents religious still, I guess?
Yes, they're very religious.
Do they know that you aren't? Or
no.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know how I would tell them. Like, I go to a Catholic school and stuff still.
You go to a private Catholic school?
No,
okay.
It's a publicly funded one.
Is it really?
Yeah, I live in a part of Canada where there's still publicly funded Catholic schools.
That's insane. I did not know that was a thing.
Yeah, it's still a thing here and I believe Alberta or something.
That's crazy.
So
wow, you're fully entrenched in that life, aren't you?
Yeah.
How do you feel about it? Like, what's it like being so deeply entrenched in it like that?
Like, growing up, like, I left religion when I was about 13-ish, so it's been a few years.
Right.
Back then, like, I felt really wrong because no one else, like, had like a lack of belief that I did.
Right.
Like, I got confirmed and all that as well, which we had to write a letter to a priest on why we wanted to be confirmed. I almost wrote, I only did because my parents wanted me to.
Oh, God, that would not have gone over well, I bet.
Yeah, it wouldn't have. I ended up not writing the letter in the first place.
Did you end up getting confirmed, though, or?
Yeah.
So, just help me understand. You get baptized when you're a baby, and then you get confirmed when you're like a teenager usually, and that means...
Yeah, like 12, 13. It used to be 13, but I think they moved it down to 12.
And what is confirmation? Is it just...
It's when... I think it was explained to me about, like, when you get confirmed, you're considered an adult in the faith or something like that.
So you're it's kind of like baptism in any other religion.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. But now I'm in high school, like, most of my friends, they're actually, like, most of my friends happen to be atheist.
Do they? In Catholic school?
Yeah.
Oh,
that's a large majority of my friends are atheists.
That's awesome. You know what they say about reading the Bible? It's the best way to turn somebody atheist, I think.
Yeah, that's true. But at the same time, like, there's, like, our school, like, for the most part, like, I'm also LGBT. Like,
Yeah.
And with my school, some people are really bad about that kind of stuff, especially in the younger grades. I found.
You mean like being against LGBT stuff?
Yeah, a lot of people
that
are like
sucks.
really, especially in the younger grades, they're extremely homophobic.
That sucks.
Yeah, in the older grades, they seem a lot more chill about it. I found out because like most of our grade is either bi or gay.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I also found.
I wonder if it has something to do with like kids being young and being kind of idolizing their parents, like looking up to their parents and how they view things. I don't know.
It could be.
It's hard to tell, I guess.
But I was raised with those kind of views as well by my parents.
Right. So you were raised to kind of be anti-LGBT?
Yeah. Because back then I kind of believed everything I was told without really questioning it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I mean, at least you broke out of it. At least you're aware and you know what's happening. And at least you have other friends who share the same opinions as you. Because it's genuinely difficult to go through life alone like that sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, by the time I ended up leaving Jehovah's Witnesses, I was completely kicked out and I had to find other friends. So I didn't really have to go through something like that as intensely as other people do. Like, I always kind of had friends who mostly shared my opinions, for the most part. But I know that being in the closet about things will just eat you alive. It's so bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I assume you're not out to your parents about being LGBT either.
No, there's no way I could come out with them without risking like being kicked out or something.
Just give it time. Just give it a little time, and you can be who you are without having to worry about that anymore. You know?
Yeah, that's true.
Just a little bit more time.
Because our school, they have what's I don't know how to explain it, but like religious advisor or something in our school.
Oh yeah, because it's Catholic.
He's he's really relatively accepting like of LGBT folk.
Really? Okay.
Even though except for the fact that both me and one of my trans friends got this entire speech from him about how God made us the way we are, so we shouldn't transition.
Right.
Yeah, besides that.
Yeah.
But he's also the one that supervises like our school's LGBT club. The issue with that is there's a few kids that want to go to the club but can't because they know that teacher's there. The issue is that teacher has a really big thing against like the non-religious.
Right.
Like he refused to give a student volunteer hours because they were openly atheist.
Really? And I assume they need volunteer hours.
Yeah, you need about 40 to graduate.
That is insane. That should be illegal. Seriously.
Honestly, we shouldn't be allowed to do that.
That's crazy. I swear, like, there are some ways in which Canada is so much more advanced than the U.S. But on another token, it's a little bit more backwards in some ways too. Like that, religion, church and state should not be linked like that.
Yeah,
that's not good.
Like even back when I was younger and I was still religious, I still thought it was dumb that like there's government funded like Catholic schools and all that.
Yeah, that is not good. That's insane. I guess it's kind of like they say it shouldn't be, the government shouldn't be favoring one religion over another. So if they want to have like a Catholic funded school, or if they want to have a government funded Catholic school, that's fine as long as they have a government funded Islamic school and Jehovah's Witness school and every other,
Yeah.
But that's how it is in the U.S. It's certainly not like that everywhere. Obviously not in Canada either. But I don't mind that so much. I'm okay with the separation of church and state laws that we have in the U.S. right now. I just wish people would follow them. That's my only problem.
Mm-hmm.
People don't really follow them, But anyway, it's been an interesting chat. I appreciate you coming on. It's actually at the end of my time, but maybe I'll talk to you again one of these days, okay?
Yeah. Hopefully we can talk again.
I actually knew that Catholic schools could be state funded in Canada. I had just completely forgotten about it. Like, I have not thought about that in a long time. That's a real shame. Seriously, that's really, really messed up. What can you do? Yeah,
I had one more question for you if you
Okay,
wanted to
go
close out with that.
Sure.
What do you think the future of YouTube is? Do you think it's going to last much longer, or that something else is going to take its place?
If YouTube was its own company, its own entity, it would be bigger than Disney. It is so massive that we can't put it on a scale in the same way. YouTube is a titan. And I mean, people probably said this about Enron back in forever ago. I don't think it's ever going to die. Not completely. They said this about Sega, too. I guess nothing is really, honestly, too big to fail when you think about it. But, I mean, if it's too big to fail, that means that if it does fail, it completely devastates the economy. That's what it means. Doesn't mean that it can't fail. It means if it does, then we're all fucked. But I think YouTube, I don't think that a competitor is going to be able to rise up. I think the only way that there's going to be competition is if the government comes in with antitrust lawsuits and stuff. I don't think that's going to happen either, though. I think YouTube is probably going to keep growing. It's like Facebook. I mean, is there honestly a competitor to Facebook? Sure, there's Twitter, but really Twitter is not anywhere near as big. There really isn't a competitor to Facebook that is close to its size and makes close to its amount of money. Facebook, YouTube, they are titans. They are not going anywhere, I don't think. But anyway, yeah. I guess that's the end of it. I appreciate you guys coming on. It's been really interesting, and I will talk to you next week.